It's she's from the big city, he's from the small town. It's a real page turner, this one. Says who? You may shed a tear. If you enjoyed playing Cluedo, or I think the American version of Cluedo is Clue, we're getting unhinged realness. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video, or welcome if you're here for the first time. I'm Ray, what Ray reads. Follow me on Instagram, go on. And if you haven't already, please do me a favour. It helps the algorithm and it helps more bookish people follow my account. Like, comment and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I try put out videos every Sunday, so be there or be square. In today's video, I thought I'd do a video recommending some books to get you out of a reading slump. So I've picked a few very specific recommendations and I've tried to pick books that got me out of a reading slump, but also tried to give people books from a different genre or maybe a shorter book, etc, etc. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Before we get into the list of books, I do have some of the books, but I have also donated some of them, so I don't have them in my collection. And if you've done a reading challenge this year, hopefully these books will inspire you to try and achieve that reading challenge. So the first book I'm going to recommend is Vladmir by Julia May Jonas. This one is for my dark academia complex female character girlies, and the basic premise of the book is that it's set at a university in America, and a woman, a teacher there, her husband is beginning to face allegations from his past students of inappropriate behaviour.
Right to jail, right away.
So it kind of touches on the Me Too era, and it follows her as she tries to navigate how to deal with the fallout from his behaviour. One thing I really liked about this book is that it highlights the dynamics between men and women when they're in a partnership, and especially when they're in a academic or professional setting. And since they were a married couple both working at the university, it showed how the woman has to almost be responsible or also pay a price for the actions of a husband.
No ma'am. No ma'am.
Even though she had nothing to do with it. It really highlights that throughout the story. And the character, the lead character, she's really complex and she does certain things where you question her morals, which I think's a really well written female character, because it makes you question their morals as well, and are you on board or are you suspicious of the behaviour. The story also takes a bit of a turn and again makes you question her and where she stands on it, because she becomes obsessed with another teacher in the university, so she has a obsession of her own, and you question if her actions are okay, and then that also pays back into the actions of a husband, and it just really unravels the story and the moral issue at play between both genders. As I said, this one to me unhinged female girlies, because she's unhinged, especially towards the last 100 pages of the book. We're getting unhinged realness. And it also is for my dark academia girlies, because it's set at an elite university in America, and so, you know, you've got your dark academia. So yeah, if you want dark academia, complex female character, unhinged protagonist, that one's for you. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Maid by Nita, Prose. I hope I pronounced the name right. And this one is for the girlies who love a mystery. If you enjoyed playing Cluedo, or I think the American version of Cluedo is Clue, then you like to unravel a mystery, this one's for you. In the book, we follow Molly the maid, who works at a fancy hotel, and she's on the maid service team, and she's an unusual character. She struggles with social interactions and everyday encounters, and it's largely hinted but never outright said that she may be on the spectrum. And I noticed on Reddit and other places in the book community people did discuss that. I think that's great if she is, because it's given a bit of representation. She loves the simple and mundane aspects of a job because she can do it to the fullest and she can really shine in that area, and she also gets to work alone. But when a prominent guest stays at the hotel and she finds his body, story, she gets pulled into a darker world and she has to unravel the mystery at play, so you see everything through her eyes. This one is for the girlies who like a somewhat thriller novel, a book that has twists and turns, another complex female character, and at the heart of it, it's simply a murder mystery, and who doesn't love that? The next book I'm going to recommend is Almond by Won Pyung-son. I hope I've pronounced that right. It's a Korean novel that's translated, so it's translated fiction. And Almond, I'm pretty sure it might be YA, but it's very poignant as a story, and it didn't read like a YA novel. And it follows the story of Yun Jae. He's the main character, and he has a brain condition that impacts his ability to deal with emotions, and he doesn't sense fear or danger or anger. So he's got a really strong relationship with his maternal relationships in the family. His mother and his grandmother raise him, and they help him navigate the world, and he's got a really strong bond with them. And it follows him from when he's a child to when he's an adolescent and then an older adult. And in it, when he turns 16, a horrible violent incident takes place, and it shatters his safety net really, and he's basically having to deal with the world without the help that he once so heavily relied upon. It's a really touching and complex story of family relationships and struggling to navigate the world as you go into adolescence and then become an adult, and especially more so when you need that extra help. And it's just a really lovely, beautiful story, and you may shed a tear, but it's these type of stories is what makes me love translated fiction. So that one's for the translated fiction contemporary girlies. The next book is another translated book, Japanese translated fiction, and this one is for the girlies that want a quick read. You know, they need to get those short books in to try and finish the reading challenge, and it is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Again, I hope I pronounced that right and I'm not completely butchering it. And this story is a quirky, female-centric story set in a convenience store, and we follow Kiko, who never fully feels like she fits in, and she's never living up to the standards that her parents set for her or society sets from her. She almost rebels against it, but not on purpose. She just doesn't feel the need to follow those traditional roles as society expects. And when she starts working at the convenience store, she finds a sense of purpose, and she actually enjoys working there. And some people may look down on her for working in just a convenience store, but because she's an unusual character and she likes to do things her own way, she doesn't seem to have that awareness, which I think's good, of the conversations that other people have where society puts pressure on them to act and be a certain way. She likes the simpleness of the job, and she likes to do it to the letter. And what I liked about this book is it's an unusual character, and it highlights the workplace, the good and the bad about it, especially in different cultures, and the pressures that we feel, gendered pressures, society pressures, family pressures, to act and be a certain way. Like, we have to, you know, hit all these milestones, but says who? You know, we're our own person, and it really highlights that through a really unique character. And the character, you just can't help but love her, and everyone I've recommended to read this book, they've just absolutely loved it. And again, if you want to read this book to try and get a quick read in, it's only 163 pages, so you'll have it read in an hour or so. Okay, maybe a few hours. The next book is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This one is for the girlies who love a contemporary story, and in the story we follow a babysitter slash nanny who, she's black and she works for a wealthy white family babysitting the child, and she has an incident one evening in a white neighbourhood's grocery store where she's basically racially profiled, I think it would be considered, where she's accused of almost stealing the child even though she's simply doing a job. And the book's a really great social commentary on the state of the world now, and even when it came out a few years previous, and it highlights how class, race, privilege all plays into our lives and how we all have different experiences because of it. And Kylie Reid has such a compelling way of writing the characters that they feel so real and lived in, and you feel like you could see yourself in that world. And we also follow the character not only in her their day job of, you know, those dynamics, but we follow her in her personal life and how those dynamics make or break her, and it all comes to a head in the end of the book. It's a real page turner, this one, and if you like contemporary, very current books, this one's just for you if you like contemporary literature. So yeah, check that one out. The next book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that, you know, I'm an Emily Henry stan. This one's for the girlies who love a rom-com, and this book follows two people who work in the publishing industry in America, and they're basically competitors and almost enemies. They know of each other, but they don't really get along with each other because they're competitors in that industry. It's basically a rom-com in a book. If you want to watch a rom-com, instead, why don't you pick up Book Lovers and you can read a rom-com? It's enemies to lovers. It's she's from the big city, he's from the small town. They clash, but really, if they just had a conversation, they'd realise they have more in common than anything. It's funny, it's charming, and the characters, like Emily Henry does really well, are complex, even though, you know, we're dealing with a rom-com, and a lot of the time it can be quite generic. In those chick flicks, or what do they call it, chick lit, she writes these complex female characters who are in that world, and it just makes it all the more enjoyable. So the next book is Animal by Lisa Taddeo. This one's for my unhinged female girlies who like a unhinged character. We're talking Gone Girl, we're talking My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and in this book we see female rage at its finest.
Good for her.
We follow Joan as she navigates her life as a 20-something young woman in New York City, and we follow how her relationships with men have had like a lot of negative experiences, and she has quite a triggering and traumatic encounter with someone, and it causes her to relive past traumas. So she flees from New York and she goes to LA, and then when the book is taking place in LA, it's very hazy, and the location really plays into the character and the story. She's trying to gain a sense of control over her life while dealing with the past traumas and recollecting things that happened that weren't right, and that she's maybe looked at differently to how she would now. And as she gets a sense of control over her life, or what she sees as control, we see the dynamics, the gendered dynamics switch, and she goes from being preyed upon to being more of a predator, and that really is the moral crux of the story. It's raw and it's rage fueled, and it's just female rage at its finest. So the next book we have is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book's for the girlies who want to go all in. They think, what I am going to do is read a 500-page epic. So this one's for you. It's a historical light fantasy, so it's got fantastical elements, but it's very light. It's set in 1828, and in it, throughout the book, you've got themes of resistance, colonialism, an uprising and a revolt. It's following a group of students, all who are highly intelligent, and their intelligence is sought after, and we find out later what their intelligence is sought after for. The colonial superpower that is the UK, at the time Great Britain, it wants to train a group of translators so that it can have more of a stronghold as a colonial entity in the world. But as you get further into the novel and you follow the characters, you realise what the true intentions of the coloniser is.
Not this.
It's never good. It's never good.
I said what I said!
And the characters have to make their moral decision of what they're going to do and how they're going to act. This one's for the girlies who aren't big into fantasy, but they also are into a bit of history, and it feels like a world you could really see inhabiting. The next book is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, and this one's for the girlies who love a thriller. It's set in an upstate New York college, and a group of friends, girls, meet another girl who ends up becoming the roommate, and then they meet her father, who's a charismatic older man who basically tries to teach them the ways of the world.
Oh, Jesus. Gross.
But ends up pulling them into a darker world that they actually don't really want to be a part of. He tries to manipulate them with lies and deceit, and before they know it, they're in some sort of cult. And and this book really highlights the gendered dynamics and what's expected in society of men and women, and especially of the way that men in the past throughout history have expected women to act.
Housekeeping still remains the most important business of the world. She must know how to cook. To her husband, she must be a companion, a sweetheart, a wife, and a mother.
And it really shows what happens when a woman chooses to rebel against that, and she can be at risk, but she also can be in control of her own life, destiny and narrative. It's quite a quick thrill and read, and it's got sort of similar vibes to Handmaid's Tale in the way that the women are treated in it. Yet that was a book that I read over the past few months and found it really quick and easy and thrilling to read. And finally, we've got I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, and this one is for my girlies who love a true story and my girlies who love true crime. And the book is told from the point of view of Michelle McNamara, who's a crime journalist who followed the story of the Golden State Killer for years and years. She became enraptured and obsessed with it. She basically started investigating it herself, and she was determined to catch him. And the thing I like about this story is it's told from a unique point of view, in the sense that we're seeing it from a more personal point of view of the journalist and the author. It's not just these are the facts, it's interspersed with her personal life and what was going on in that. It's very eerie and thrilling, and if you like true stories, it's one that you definitely won't be able to put down, but you might want to put it down because it might scare you. Also, it's got an introduction by the one, the only Gillian Flynn, author of Gone Girl, author of Sharp Objects, author of Dark Places. I stan Gillian. I stan her. And yeah, Gillian, please give us a new book, please and thank you. So yeah, they were some recommendations for you to get out of a reading slump. Hopefully there's something in here that you feel pulled and drawn towards, and get yourself out of the slump and read a great book. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, if you did, please like, comment and subscribe. That was the video for today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!